Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Welcome to the High Velocity Radio Show, where we celebrate top performers producing better results in less time. Stone Payton here with you this afternoon. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast co-founder with Grow Global, Mr. Sean Goldsmith. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, Stone. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor to be on your show.
It is such a delight to have you on the program. I know this has been in the planning stages for a while. I got 1,000 questions. I know we're not going to get to them all, but I think a great place to start would be if you could paint for me and our listeners a little bit of a feel for mission, purpose. What are you and your team really out there trying to do for folks, man?
Wow. I mean, it's quite extensive if I'm honest, but I'll give you a bit of history on myself, and that might make a lot more sense when it comes to the mission and the vision. So I grew up in a very, very small and poor town in South Africa, actually. And at the age of 21, I packed up my kit bag and shot off to England to go and find fame and fortune, which took a little longer than I thought it would. But just accidentally, purely because I was on minimum wage and I wanted to make a bit more beer money, I started a little recruitment agency, which about a year and a half later, and at the age of 22 was, had about 800, South Africans, Australians, and New Zealanders working in all the pubs and the race courses and all of that in Britain. And I was very fortunate to have won the Amazon account. So we were doing all the Amazon picking and packing and all kinds of things. But long story short, I got into franchising, in a big way. And at 27, I was part of a team. I was the general manager of one of the first multi-brand franchises in Britain. And it was in home services. And we took that all the way from when I joined 15 franchisees, to again about 700, franchisees across, 10 brands. And we floated that on the stock exchange. So at the age of 27, we'd taken a brand and done some incredible things with it. Now, during my sort of education on franchising, in those formative years, it became very clear to me that as a franchisor or somebody who's in charge of a franchise, you've got a hefty responsibility on your shoulders, because you are in the palm of your hands holding somebody's future. And you are the reason and part of the mechanism that's going to help somebody who potentially in another life were an employee, very unhappy. What your job is to make sure that person succeeds in business. That is your only job. And to make sure that they're able to look after their family, etc. And I saw when I was looking around, especially in the ecosystem around Britain, where there is no regulation or anything like there is in the US and in Canada. There were some franchisors that really weren't taking that responsibility to heart. And, when a franchise goes wrong, as with any other small business, the repercussions are way more severe than just losing money. And, families divorce and crazy things happen. So, I kind of, made a promise to myself that or at least an assertion that my job is to make sure that people don't fail. That's the only reason that franchising exists. Yes, you make some money and you've got a great, system to follow, but ultimately your job is to look after humans. Anyway, fast forward to COVID, and about 2 weeks before COVID, we launched this program in the UK called the Franchise Mastermind. And we started inviting all the franchisors that we could find into this little group. And it became very evident very quickly to me that whilst franchisors, and this holds true in every country I've worked in around the world, whilst franchisors peddle the narrative of when you buy a franchise, you have the support, you have the infrastructure, you have the business model, you have the plan of action, you have all of these things, right? And they push this very, very, very hard onto potential franchisees. They have none of those structures in place for themselves. None of them. Really, really interesting if you think about it, because a franchisor statistically, right, falls into the same category as a small business, right? Failure rates sky high. Whereas franchisees, their success rates are very, very high. So what happened is we immediately thought, well, God, we got to be able to put a support system in place here for franchisors. They are, especially over COVID, the mental health challenges that they were going through, and the financial challenges and all of this kind of stuff. And, in my mind, you save one franchisor, you're potentially saving 30, 40, 200 small businesses. So we put a lot of effort into these franchisors. And, funny enough, that is where where Grow Global in its current format, became formalized, because we were doing that previously. But what we noticed was that franchisors are the ones who need additional support. And ironically, the ones who need it the most are not McDonald's, right? They're pretty clued up with these kind of things. It's the little guys. And, those little guys, when they go bust, the franchisors, and this holds true, I think, in the States too. When they go bust when they've got 5 franchisees, when they are tiny, when they're insignificant, they've not been part of an association, they've not done anything like that, but they have great fundamental businesses that they've built themselves, and those businesses often don't go bust. But the franchising element of it, right, is very, very difficult, and it's a completely different skill set to running a business, doing window cleaning or doing burgers or whatever it might be. So we set about to develop the infrastructure to support franchisors. So what we did as Grow Global is we decided that what we were going to do is we were going to start fractionalizing franchise management, so that a small franchisor of like 3, 4, 5 franchisees, if necessary, could access a team of highly experienced franchising people and really focus on the relationship part of franchising rather than the operational part, because really they need to grow into that. And our job and our mission is to become redundant for those franchisors. So to help them to get to the point where they know which person they want to hire. They're not just guessing, and they're not putting an ad out and thinking, oh God, I need a franchise manager, I need an ops person, I need a marketing person. What they do is they grow with us. And then when they get to the stage where they can afford, or they have the, they have the knowledge to be able to get rid of us, we do that with a smile on our face, because that was our intention in the first place. So that was the kind of nexus of Grow Global. And at the same time, being from Africa, I just kept seeing these horrible stories about people in massive poverty. And during my time in franchising, I'd come across the Malaysian Franchise Association, and they sent over a delegation of about 10 people to me to England, specifically to buy franchises, right? And this is the government wanting to buy franchises. And this was fascinating to me. I was like, well, either this is a huge scam, or, there's a politician who's kind of using government money, or, to buy their own franchises. I was like, what the hell's going on here? But no, it turned out that, Malaysia, sort of 23, 24 years ago now, they had a massive problem in that the actual local Malays, the Malay people themselves, were impoverished, and they were really, really struggling to get out of this, the doldrums, basically. And, the wealthier, people were of Chinese origin or of Singaporean origin, etc. But the Malay people themselves were the poorest of the poor. Similar story to South Africa, but what they did is they had a really forward-thinking president, and he basically said, look, the way to get people out of poverty is through entrepreneurship, right? There's not a person in the world that won't agree with that. However, he said it's not through just giving people money and saying go and start a company, because the failure rates of small businesses are way too high. So he looked at franchising and he was like, hold on a second, here we go. we could buy master licenses for various franchises which conform to things which people need. So window cleaning or home cleaning or, burgers, but the smaller concepts, etc. And he said, if I buy the franchises as the government and we become the master licensee, then we can fund our people to start businesses, but they'll be franchise businesses. And those franchise businesses have the systems in place. They have the support structures in place. And most importantly, there is a commercial vested interest up and down the line, all the way from the US franchisor down to the master franchisee and then the franchisee. There's a vested interest up and down that line to make sure that the guy on the ground succeeds. So fast forward 22 years and they have completely turned around the fortunes of the whole of Malaysia. The Malay people are doing incredibly well. The proportion of entrepreneurs that are being spun out of franchises, if you know what I mean, guys that learn the trade, they learn the systems, they learn the processes of business through franchising, are going out and they're creating their own variations of businesses and franchises. And that became Grow Global's mission for Africa. So we ended up on the stage with the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. We got very involved in an organization called Wekona, which is primarily there to try and help women who have been suffered violence at home, which is endemic in Africa. It's terrible, especially in South Africa. So we figured, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we start introducing franchises? We're going to follow the model, proven model. And we're very pleased to say one of the first US brands, very big brand, we managed to get a master licensee into South Africa, a company called Techie, where, the most wonderful thing is happening because they specialize in tech repair. So what we are being able to do is we're able to, train women who otherwise would have no opportunities to start repairing phones and tablets and drones and PlayStations and, all of these things. So we're giving them a very real trade, while we're doing it. Anyway, the third and the last very long-winded part of this, is that, about a year and a half almost now ago, this funny little company called OpenAI dropped this funny little thing called AI and ChatGPT on our laps. And it was very, very important for us because what we immediately saw was an opportunity to be able to take all these principles of eliminating franchisee failure and helping people that are impoverished. And really the redistribution, or at least the smooth distribution of knowledge and experience. I just saw all of these things, just in the droves in AI. And immediately we set about creating small business AI, right? From the ground up, based on franchising principles, so our sort of franchising division called GrowTech, we building operations manuals. We are building, and these are live AI operations manuals that give somebody context. So, if they come along on their phone and they say, oh, sales are low, what should I do? It'll give them context based on the fact that the franchising world is the most prolific and successful, contributor to small business success in the world. So we're taking that combined intelligence, that unified intelligence of franchisors, and franchisees from around the world. We are building that into AI with the single-minded vision that we are able to help a lady who is selling Coca-Colas from a mud hut in Central Africa. As long as she's got a cell phone and she can access the internet, that this AI will give her the knowledge of Elon Musk and all the other billionaires combined, along with some of the franchisors when it comes to running a business and how to make it successful. And that's us in a incredibly large nutshell.
Well, no, it's very helpful context. You must sleep incredibly well at night. This strikes me as a very noble pursuit. Now that you've been at it a while, what are you finding the most rewarding about the work? What are you enjoying the most?
I think it is maybe just the diversification or the breaking up of centralized knowledge. I think that's probably for me the most exciting bit, because, when I got into this game called franchising, there were some guys with big mustaches and walking canes, that weren't sharing any information. And really the knowledge when it came to running a business, or at least what the pitfalls are, was all very secretive and hidden. A few guys would write books, and I have to say, I'm probably one of the only people you'll ever hear that says I'm skeptical about authors and business books. And really the reason is because when you write a book, right, any person, that you tend to think about big picture stuff, right? And you speak philosophically, and you reach into your the knowledge that's in the forefront of your mind. And if you were talking to your friend, that same author, if they were just talking to their friend, they would speak in a very, very different way to what they write books. And the knowledge and the precision of the knowledge that they would impart when chatting, would be much more relevant and much more interesting. So similar to a podcast. So why I listen to a lot of podcasts, because often the authors will say things in the podcast which are about 5,000 times more useful than what they wrote in their own book, because they're speaking it. So I think the ability for me to know that what I'm building is something that can go into the hand of an ordinary mom and pop, or a lifetime employee that has been working in manufacturing, and the mere thought of running their own business gives them the heebie-jeebies, being able to put an advisor, a world-class advisor that is better than a team of advisors in their hand that can talk to them any time of day. That to me, that's just magic.
Well, it certainly sounds like magic to me. Now, you guys have something exciting and intriguing to me, cooking with an outfit called Skill Samurai. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So Skill Samurai, in all my travels around the franchising world, is one of the most interesting little franchises that I've come across. So it was originally founded by a wonderful guy called Jeff Hughes, who's Canadian. I think he's down in Florida at the moment. Oh God, so sorry. So what we liked about Skill Samurai was it was part of our broader mission. So what I mean by that is Skill Samurai is all about education, but it's an intelligence education. They do STEM education. They teach kids coding. They use the Singapore method for maths. So they do maths training, but they do it in such a smart way. They let the kids code for their favorite games. So Roblox and Minecraft, and they could even create themselves a game similar to Fortnite. And I've got 3 boys under 12, and I can tell you what a powerful sort of draw card that is. So, we started looking at Skill Samurai in the context of the fact that, we could launch it into places like Africa, as a relatively low, investment franchise with a high impact. So, after some discussions and, some very, very amazing alignments, in our thinking between Jeff and I, we decided that we'd go ahead and, take 50% of the company, with a mission that we want to empower children. So we're going to, in addition to the Skill Samurai, curriculum, which is already better than almost any other franchise that I've seen out there, we are adding AI training, and we're also adding something I'm very passionate about, which is an entrepreneur curriculum. So, in my view, if I look at where AI is going at the moment, I can't honestly tell you what jobs my kids are going to end up doing, that AI can't do. And I'm developing the AI. So, it's like, it really is very scary to me. I'll tell you, Stone, I've got an AI that we've deployed in the US that will take an inbound call, and we've done tests, right? And 85% of the people that this AI speaks to have no idea that it's an AI. So what's hope for my children, right? So, this was a big problem for me, because here I am trying to help people in Africa, in South America, all over the place. And this AI thing comes along, and I'm just like, oh God, like how? What, you're going to have to become a plumber, my son, which nothing wrong with that. But, then it just occurred to me, that the one thing that is true about humanity is that the most innovative and, I guess, sector, or at least a way of thinking, right, that is the most protected for the future is entrepreneurial thinking. So as far as I was concerned, everything that you teach children must come with the mindset and the method of thinking of entrepreneurs, right? Where they're able to spot a gap, a millimeter wide and about 10 miles deep, and that was the key. So with Skill Samurai, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, teaching kids the engineering side of things with 3D printers. We can teach them coding. We're going to be teaching them, all kinds of things. We've even just, started discussions with, the company called Techie that does electronics repair, to incorporate that into the kids' training. So they got physical, actual engineering training along the way. And then we're going to combine all of that. The glue behind all of that is going to be entrepreneurial thinking and entrepreneurial training, but not in the way that, currently exists, where, you go to, you have an entrepreneur class at school and they tell you to sell some soap or cookies or whatever it might be. This will be franchisors. I mean, franchisors that's their job. They train people on how to run businesses. So we're going to be using the fundamentals of franchising to help these kids take the skills that they're learning, whether it's coding or, working on Canva or whatever it might be, and find a way to make a bit of money out of it. And we think that if we continue to do that, if we do that from a young age and we get the kids continually working in the program, what's going to happen is one of the most beautiful things that could possibly happen to mankind, as far as I'm concerned. And that is, we will be able to allow children to leave school as veterans of entrepreneurship. Now, think about the implications of that. In all my years in franchising, the vast majority of people that have come to us, that are wanting to start a business for the first time are in their mid-40s plus. First time they've ever done anything. They have to learn how to be an entrepreneur at that point, right?
Right.
Doing it this way, what we would be able to do is empower young people with the ability to, regardless of what the future is, what AI can and cannot do, figure out the tiny little gap that is going to make them, help them feed their kids one day. So that's our kind of mission. And, along those lines, we've been engaged with, again, the South African government. And we're going to be trying to take this across the whole of Africa and try and see if we can, find a few entrepreneurial sparks that might turn into a blazing fire.
Well, it sounds like it's a marvelous marriage, if you will, because it's allowing you to live into your mission and specifically your commitment to corporate social responsibility. But you're going to be able to help these folks gain some reach well beyond anything they would have achieved without the discipline and rigor and methodology that Grow Global brings to the party, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're very humble when it comes to these things. The fact is, I grew up poor, and I remember, what it was like for my parents. I still have this one little vision. I must have been probably about 6 or so. And I remember we were in this big department store, and I was begging my mum for this little toy car. And I was begging and I was begging and I was begging. And the reason I think it got seared into my memory is because she just turned to me and she had tears coming out of her eyes, and she just said, "Boy, I just can't today." Right. And that stuck with me. And, the thing is that this is happening all the time. I've got to tell you, Stone, you come to a place like Cape Town And it is like the best that the first world has to offer. It is beautiful and it is impeccable, and it's almost dreamlike. It's like that old 1960s American vision, of the suburbs. And then 5 minutes later, there's people living effectively in a favela, dirt poor, got nothing. So, those things just don't marry up for me in my head. And as far as I'm concerned, we should all be trying our very best to figure out how to help people like that, not by handouts, but by empowerment. That's the core.
So are you guys at Grow Global, are you still taking on additional clients, or is your plate full right now?
No, we're always taking on additional clients. So, we are pretty busy at the moment. We do franchise. Well, we work in 14 countries around the world.
Wow.
We do a huge amount of franchise marketing, a lot of consulting, just really, really fundamental, basics of franchising. And we combine all the learnings we have from the global franchising community, and we apply them to our clients. And then, of course, we've got the AI that we're working on heavily. So, the beauty is that our workforce is a lot cheaper than the US workforce at the moment. So that's helpful when it comes to marketing and bits and pieces for the franchisors. And because we kind of offer a management solution, we manage entire franchise networks, their global networks for US based clients. So, they focus on the US. We represent them as them, on a white label basis, worldwide. And we build the international, network, and they focus on the US. It's a marriage made in heaven.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're up for it, we're going to do this again, and we're going to try to follow this Skill Samurai story. Love to have you come back sometime and get caught up on the progress, what you've learned in that process. That would be a fun story to follow if you're up for that.
We'd absolutely love it. And, there's plenty more amazing entrepreneurial stories coming out of Europe and Africa. I'd be happy to share with you.
Oh, it sounds marvelous. All right. For now, though, let's make sure that our listeners can tap into your work if they'd like to have a more substantive conversation with you or someone on your team, or they just want to tap into your work, website, LinkedIn, whatever you feel like is appropriate. I just want to make sure we make it easy to connect with you guys.
Yeah, great. So on my LinkedIn, absolutely. I'm very happy with that. So it's Sean, Sean Goldsmith. It's LinkedIn /Sean Goldsmith. And then, of course, our website, which is growglobal.com, which is GROE global.com. And of course, we've got our AI side, which is GrowTech, GROETECH.com. And, any of those ways are completely perfect to contact us on.
Well, Sean, it has been an absolute delight having you on the program today. Thank you so much for your insight, your perspective. Keep up the work, man. The work you're doing is so important, and we sure appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Stone. I really, really enjoyed this, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my very long-winded story.
My pleasure. All right, until next time, this is Stone Payton for our guest today, Sean Goldsmith with Grow Global, and everyone here at the Business Radio X family saying we'll see you in the fast lane.